This is an amazing discovery. Electric stimulation makes old brains act young again. This is on Life Science. We know that there's a lot of things that make brains benefit and work better. For one thing, it could be music, classical music, and other types of music such as psalms and hymns. This is a scientific finding. Even plants react to classical music. There are countries that have megaphones playing classical music over agricultural fields, and they have a 20% increase in productivity because plants like to listen to classical music. And also something else that stimulates the brain is being in nature, listening to the sounds of nature, a running brook or the waves of the sea, or the trickling of a river, the singing of the birds, the wind blowing gently through the leaves, all these sounds of nature, and of course a baby listening to the mother's voice as she sweetly speaks to it or sings to it. All this has been found to stimulate the brain. And now this electrical stimulation making old brains act young again. This is on Life Science by Stephanie Pappas. The short session of brain zapping can reverse some of the effects of aging in older adults. This is what a new study suggests. Now, how much of the zapping is another question. The technique is not ready for non-experimental use yet, and it's not clear how long the benefits last. But the study authors said they hope that their findings will set the stage for improving cognition in both healthy adults and in people experiencing Alzheimer's and other types of dementia. Quote, these findings are important because they not only give us new insights into the brain, basis for age-related working memory decline, but they also show us that the negative age-related changes are not unchangeable, end quote. Study leader Robert Reinhardt, neuroscientist at Boston University, says. The findings were published April 8, 2018, Journal Nature, Neuroscience, just a few hours ago. Working memory, Reinhardt and his co-author, doctoral student John Nguyen, focused their study on an aspect of cognition called working memory. This is the sketch pad of the brain. Reinhardt said in a press briefing, it allows people to hold information in active use for a few seconds at a time, facilitating all sorts of important tasks, from performing mental math to reading to having a conversation. Research has shown that working memory is a key part of intelligence, Reinhardt told reporters. But working memory declines over adulthood. The decline is not dramatic, but it is significant enough that older adults perform worse on average on working memory tasks than younger adults. Reinhardt and Nguyen wanted to see if they could figure out why and perhaps change that trajectory. The researchers recruited 42 adults ages 20 to 29 and 42 older adults ages 60 to 76. The scientists asked the participants to complete a working memory task while their brain activity was being monitored by electroencephalogram. The task was a simple find the difference game in which the participants saw two very similar pictures on a screen in short succession and had to identify what was different about the second picture. All of the participants were healthy without diagnosis of dementia or other cognitive problems. In some sessions, participants did the task while their brain was lightly stimulated with a non-invasive electric method called transcranial altering current stimulation. Using electrodes on the scalp, the researchers pulsed rhythmic electrical stimulation into prefrontal and temporal brain areas. Communication between these regions at the front and sides of the brain is thought to be important for working memory. Brain booster. The experiment was double-blind, so neither participants nor researchers knew when the participants were receiving brain stimulation. Other than an initial tingling sensation on the scalp, The stimulation does not feel like anything, Reinhardt said. To trick the participants during sham sessions, the researchers gave them 30 seconds of light electric current through the electrodes, mimicking this sensation. Participants came in for different days for their sham and real sessions, and the stimulation lasted 25 minutes. Prior to any stimulation, older adults performed less well on the working memory tasks in the younger cohort. Accuracy in younger adults averaged around 90%, with scores ranging from the high 80s to nearly 100% correct. In older adults, the average was closer to 80%, with scores ranging from the low 70s to the mid 80s. Stimulation closed the gap. Within about 12 minutes of the start of brain stimulation, older adults began to perform as well as the younger group. This improvement continued as long as the experiment lasted, 50 minutes after the stimulation stopped. Quote, "We did not see the effects coming down to baseline or even trending down to baseline level," Reinhardt said. "The researchers have not experimented to see how long the results last, but results from other brain stimulation research suggest the effects could persist for several hours," he said. In follow-up experiments with another 49 older and younger adults, the researchers also tested the effects of brain stimulation on young adults who had the lowest working memory scores, and those young people got a boost too, the researchers found. Reinhardt said, "I think it's possible to kind of turbocharge even normal, healthy cognitive functioning, including in young people." The syncing up. The study was impressively done, said Walter Paulus and Zsolt Turi, both clinical neuropsychologists at the University Medical Center Göttingen in Germany, who were not involved in the research. The researchers checked their own work on follow-up samples of participants, which boosts confidence in their findings, Turi told Life Science. There is still work to do, though, Paulus warned. Already, he told Life Science, some companies sell devices meant to stimulate the brain through the skull. As Reinhardt and Yunyen's study shows, brain stimulation needs to be personalized. The researchers did a lot of preliminary work to make sure they placed electrodes correctly and delivered the proper stimulation to improve brain function. Paulus said, "If you deviate from the protocol, you may end up with either no result or also in counterproductive results. With further research, though, the technique has promise for use in patients," he added. "The stimulation seems to reverse the decline of aging for a few key reasons," Reinhardt said. First, it narrowly targeted the prefrontal cortex and the temporal lobe. In young adults who are using their working memory, these two areas sync the rhythms of their activity. The tighter the synchronization, the low frequency pattern around 8 Hz seems to be the sweet spot. The better working memory performs, Reinhardt said. In older adults, this tight synchronization vanishes, which seems to be the root of working memory decline. That leads to the second key feature of the brain stimulation, its rhythmicity. The researchers pulsed alternating current tailored to the person's natural brain rhythms into these areas. In essence, the pulse gets the two areas talking again. Quote, "We're synchronizing these brain areas that are uncoupled or uncorrelated or less synchronized in the elderly," Reinhardt said. The young adults who were worse at the working memory task also had relatively desynchronized brain chatter, Reinhardt noted. "The new findings are a starting point," Reinhardt said. Already, the research team has started pushing its studies into the areas of disease and disorder. The researchers have found, but not yet published, evidence that older adults with more dementia symptoms, but not full-blown dementia, show worse brain synchronization in both working memory and long-term memory regions. This could mean that the brain synchronization technique could be a non-invasive treatment for Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia, Reinhardt said. The researchers have also found that they can stimulate the brain with rhythms that desynchronize brain regions. Quote, "It bodes well for next clinical steps because we know that there are brain disorders characterized by hypoconnectivity," that's low connectivity, like autism, schizophrenia, and Alzheimer's, but there are also disorders characterized by too much brain connectivity, that like Parkinson's and epilepsy. Reinhardt said, quote, "We have the beginnings of a tool that can both synchronize and make your brain more connected and desynchronize and make your brain less connected." This is on Live Science. I'll leave a link below for you for this. One thing that I want to research, and if I forget, please remind me. Do you remember how the ancient American Native Indians wore headbands? Many a time they had various minerals, semi-precious stones on them. They could have been made also in Latin America, in South America, they had headbands made of gold. And we know that, for example, the wealthy people of the ancient times wore headbands made of gold. And especially the ancient Greeks, even slaves wore headbands of gold. So the slaves of course, the elite wore headbands of gold. And I would venture to say, I'm going to look into that, but that must have something to do with the electroconductivity towards the brain. I'm sure of that. There's no reason for them to have had a headpiece like that, especially made with such precious metal, if it didn't do something to benefit their mental capacities. Amazing. So we'll look into that later on. Hopefully I won't forget. I'll make a note to myself. So this is on Live Science. It's excellent stuff, and I hope it works. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.